On this video, I'm going to talk to a pro-choice leaning Christian. Stay tuned. Hey, what's going on? It's Ruslan with KingsDreamENT.com. This channel exists to encourage, empower, inspire you to live out God's dream for your life. This video is going to be controversial. You're going to be triggered. Some of you guys may be mad at me for even doing this video, but I feel like it's very necessary in light of all the tension that's happening socially and politically and all that kind of stuff. Just so you guys know, the expectation on this YouTube channel is to watch the video till the end before you leave a comment. No drive-by comments. This is not intended to be a debate. One of the principles I try to live my life by is to seek to understand before seeking to be understood. And so that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to be talking to one of my friends, somebody I consider a mentor, about their position in terms of being a Bible-believing, Holy Spirit-filled Christian that leans to a pro-choice position. So before I do that, gotta send a big shout out to all the Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is a way where you can support your favorite creatives and give a monthly contribution to make sure content like this happens, make sure the lights stay on, the cameras stay fly, we can upgrade equipment, all that kind of stuff. You go to patreon.com/KingsDream or hit the link in the bio. Let's get into this video. I got my man, Dr. Bruce Hoskins.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing all right.
Doing all right?
I'm doing all right. Being blessed.
That's what's up. So me and you go way back. We met a long time ago on a basketball court, probably like 20 years ago. But I ended up taking one of your classes at Maricosta, a couple of your classes at Maricosta Colleges, completely changed my life. We've been in the same life group together. Mm-hmm. We've gone to the same church together. I consider you someone that I look up to as a mentor, as a husband, as a father, just overall as a man. And so this is, again, not intended to be a debate, but to understand different perspectives. So I'm setting this up. So this is my friend here. You know what I mean? And I think just that alone will hopefully diffuse some of you guys here that are going to be triggered. Now, me and you go way back. You got your doctorate. You're a doctor, like a for real doctor.
My PhD's from USC in sociology. That's for sure. Yeah, and
spoken word poet.
I am a spoken word poet. Have album whatever, but yeah, no, I'm
biracial.
I am Black and Japanese.
Black and Japanese. And a Bible-believing, Holy Spirit-filled,
Holy Spirit, Jesus,
not one of them loosey-goosey theology Christians. You believe the Bible.
I believe in Jesus, the resurrection. He is the Lord of my life. Just the whole thing. You're right. It's like all the closed hand stuff. Right?
Closed hand
like
doctrines.
Everything.
Yeah. So let's get into it, man. Alabama passed the law. This is Georgia passing a law. Everybody's freaking out, right? Everybody, whatever, the people that are on the pro-life side are celebrating. The people that are on the pro-choice side are acting like this is an attack on women and women's rights and reproductive rights and this whole thing. I think there's actually a lot me and you agree on. Mm-hmm. But before we get into what we agree on, I would like to just kind of explain, as someone that identifies as a Bible-believing Christian, you believe in the scriptures, but you lean towards a pro-choice position. Yeah.
Look, so understand this, folks. I'm taking this interview because Ruslan is the homie. He's my man, 50 grand. And so, but it's at great expense because my wife is definitely a pro-life person.
There you go.
Right? It's like she is a hardcore pro-life person. And
shout out to you, Ms. Hoskins.
And we were just talking about this morning. I was just telling Ruslan, it's like, yo, I was talking to my wife, and she was already getting heated about what it is that I was going to come in and talk about.
Triggered.
Yeah, she was already triggered. And so I'm like, look, understand this. It's like, I completely understand that I live my theology. I live it every day in my own household. I live it in my classrooms. And so, one of the best ways for me to explain why I am pro-choice is that I need people to really understand this. And this is, like I said, this is truly from the heart, is that when pro-choice doesn't mean pro-abortion. And
Explain that.
Okay, so when I say that I want people to have choices, abortion has to be on the table for there to actually be a choice.
Okay.
Right? It's like, and it's like, I don't know how biblical you want us to be in this moment. I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to do me, right? It's like when you think about, and I in no way equate myself to God in any of this stuff. What I'm saying though is that when God created the Adam and Eve in the garden, there was that tree. He could have left that tree out of the whole, the tree of life or whatever. He could have left that out of the garden, but then that wouldn't have been choice. Okay. And so therefore, I get what people are saying. I am anti-abortion. I would never want anyone to have to take that option. Okay. Ever. If my daughter it's like if my daughter, God forbid, something bad happened and she was get raped and she got pregnant, I would still fight for the life of the child. Okay. And I know that that's really weird for some people to hear that from me as a man, as a father. I know my wife would fight and talk to my daughter about, do you really want to have an abortion and stuff like that, even in the worst of circumstances. And I get it. Like I said, that's really hard to believe, right? And whatnot. And yet at the same time, I'm still pro-choice, right? It's like I get that, but it still has to be a choice. And whatever choice she makes, I'm going to love and support her through the entire choosing process. But if that choice is not on the table, if I force her to not get if I force her then where's the choice in that? Okay. Where's the love from me with that? And so that's how I really can frame pro-choice and still not be pro-abortion. So is it fair to say that in your personal life, you're pro-life? Meaning that as far as you and your household, you and your wife, you and your children, you're pro-life. You are not terminating pregnancies personally, but from a legislative standpoint and from a legality standpoint, from a social standpoint, you are you feel like that's I guess a necessary evil? Is that a fair way to say it? That is a really fair way to say it. Look, here's another way of thinking about it, is that rights are not the same thing as morality, right? Rights are not the same thing as morality. And so therefore, people have a right to make the wrong choice. People have the right to make the wrong choice. And so I agree. It's like, look, like I said, you're not going to, it's like it's like the whole heartbeat bill, right? It's like the way that people are framing it is like, once that heartbeat starts, that's when, you can't get an abortion after that space. Right. You know what? I understand why people feel like they have the right that. I understand from me being a pro-choice person, I've heard in multiple spaces and whatnot that a lot of people have almost argued in some way, shapes, or form that the fetus is almost like a parasite, right? Or that this is just skin that will be scraped off and it'll go away and it really will have no overall effect and whatnot. And so then the heartbeat part of it is like to remind the rest of society, no, we're talking about terminating the potential for life and stuff like that. And so I feel like this has been a back and forth thing about stuff that's being fought on the extreme sides of it. And that people have made that in order to try to say like abortion is not that big of a deal. We shouldn't be worried so much about abortions and that women, they have the right to choose and that this shouldn't have this big mental toll and whatnot. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Okay. This is a huge deal and it should be taken hugely seriously. It should not be some frivolous decision that someone makes, and yet at the same time, they still have the right to choose. So that's where I fight. So here's where I think we would agree. I don't use drugs. I don't use weed, but I'm all for weed being legal in California. There we go. There we go. That's a great analogy. So I think as far as me and my household, I have no need to make that a part of my routine. Yeah, I have no need to consume it. Alcohol, same thing with alcohol. I don't drink. I don't drink. I'm like the hip hop Ned Flanders. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these things I don't do personally. Yeah. I think for the benefit of society, I think they should be legal, and that probably has some of you triggered right now. If you guys didn't know that. So I'm a personal conservative
on certain issues
Yeah.
while being a socially liberal, I guess. I'm really agnostic politically, but I think that's how I describe it. But I think in the case of abortion, and this is where everybody's right now, all my pro-life people are triggered and they're expecting me to push back. I think that the difference though is someone consuming marijuana is their business.
Yeah.
Someone aborting a potential life affects that potential life.
Yeah.
And anybody that I know who was almost aborted, and I have a handful of people close to me that were almost aborted. I have a handful of people that have had abortions that are close to me. But the people who are almost aborted all like unanimously agree that like existence, as crappy as it may have been to grow up poor, to grow up without a dad, to grow up with some traumatic events, all unanimously agree that existence is better than non-existence. How do you respond to that?
With the utmost love and respect, how would they know?
Because they'd rather be here than not be here.
But you don't know what not be here would mean. Because look, so I'm going to make things even a little bit more complicated. Because look, the Bible says that we talk about like, because I believe it's what people normally call the rapture or something like that. It's like, the end of days is going to be really difficult for pregnant women, because I'm assuming, and correct me or whatever, as people can correct my theology or whatever.
Oh, they will.
I understand it. I'm sure they will. But I'm assuming that means that babies are going to disappear out of wombs and stuff like that. And whatnot, and so
I don't know. I've never really looked at that path.
Yeah, okay, and so I'm not, and so if for me, like when I'm looking at that, because look, when I read the Bible, because I read the Bible every day, just want to make sure people understand that. So this is not just coming out of anywhere, and I actually look for like my these passages and whatnot, like they resonate with me when I'm like, yo, what does that mean if and whatnot. And so I get that. I truly understand when people talk about I'd rather exist than not exist. The thing is though, is that there's a space, I believe, in heaven with a lot of
aborted, miscarried babies. Me and you would agree with that.
That there's a space in heaven, a special space in heaven with a lot of those folks. And so I get it what people are saying when they say they rather exist than not exist, but you really don't. But that's, I mean, and until there's someone that comes from the other side of that to argue the point, with like I said, the utmost love and respect, that's not a valid argument to even bring to the table, because you can't even confirm the other side in order to even really say how you would feel about not existing, because you wouldn't know what non-existence.
Because you're saying, because you're kind of alluding that non-existence could mean that you just went to be with Jesus in heaven.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't, like I said, and I know, I'm sure people can, like I said, I was like, man, I can't wait to get, I'm going to get blown up, and I get this, and I know that there's going to be plenty of people who are going to question my theology, but yo, check this. When I was saying, about the difference between rights and morality, is like, look, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we've made, let me restate, I don't want to say mistakes. What I want to say, one of the things that one of the biggest challenges that we made as, I'm going to say, quote, Christians, is that we have woven our morality into the state, when in the the founding documents or whatever, it says the separation of church and state. And so there's some very real things that happen with our Christian morality that I would argue should have never been legislated.
I agree. Because like I wouldn't want people who have sex outside of marriage to be punished for having sex outside of marriage legally.
Yeah, even though you want them to be thrown into jail or whatever, but scripturally, adultery, we would have a procession of people who are getting stoned to death, right? I mean, literally a procession of that, given the current circumstances that we have and whatnot. But we wouldn't want that to be, to whatever degree, punished as a state, right?
Yeah, so, and I'm one of those people that, like, I don't think that my personal morality and standards, I don't think those should be legislated for everybody, because then everybody would need to wake up early and go to the gym and watch their carbs and be lean, and you know what I'm saying, and I know you guys are like, there's not the same. Yeah, I get it. Now let's get to this point. Where do you believe life begins?
Oh, the Bible makes that clear. It's in the womb, at least as early as that, because it's like before you were, well, even before I guess you were created. It's like Jesus knew, or God knew you when you were in the womb, right?
Okay. So then I think everybody kind of unanimously agrees that life begins at inception. Right,
I'm fine.
You hold that position.
Look, that's me personally. Okay. I know a lot of pro-choice people don't believe that, and so I'm not speaking for them right now. Okay. If I'm talking about me, I believe it starts at inception. Oh yeah. I'm
so.
I'm gonna give you the hardest time possible with
no, because I think we agree on that. We agree that life is sacred.
Yeah.
We agree that life is. It's on God to give and take.
Yeah.
Right. We agree on that. So then I think that the tough part is, I don't have a problem with women having access to birth control, access to UIDs, access to getting their fallopian tubes tied, right? Because they're saying that's kind of some of the slippery slope in terms of some of these laws, is that you're gonna take away some of the options to birth control.
Right.
I think the problem that I have is that when someone, for whatever reason, chose to let's just take rape and incest off the table, because that's such a small percentage of people who are really getting abortions.
Understood.
I have a problem with if someone chooses to have sex, which is the potential of a baby being conceived. Right. That's always the potential. Whether they're majority of which, I don't know the statistics on this, but I'm going to assume that the majority of people who are getting pregnant weren't on birth control and weren't using condoms. Right? Is that a fair assumption?
I think the condom ones might be a little bit different, but okay, let's go ahead and roll with that assumption.
Yeah, so someone is making a choice to do an act that could potentially get them pregnant, and then some would say, out of inconvenience, I'm not in a space where I want to have a baby. We can't financially provide for it, or legitimate, like, you're in poverty and having a baby at 16 is going to radically change the trajectory of your life, right?
And everything,
I have a problem with then saying I'm in a position because it's my body, which it is your body, but there's now a unique DNA, a person in that body, right? With a heartbeat, with all these different things to then terminate that. Like, I have a problem with that act. Right. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? And so I actually saw this, and I just thought it was the dopest argument that I just saw, just on the face of it. And y'all, like I said, y'all can be mad, and it's fine. I just need y'all to understand. So the woman, because there was an anti-abortion free speech thing that happened at our campus, and it was showing aborted fetuses and everything in the most horrific manner possible. There was even some allusions to lynching and things like that, and having black bodies, strange fruit swinging from trees, and I was definitely offended through the whole space, and whatnot. So one of the women that was on the side, who was clearly pro-choice, just made this sign and said, "Okay, quick, you got to make a decision. You can save 100 fetuses, or you can save a human being. Go." And I was just like, damn, that's a really good argument right now. Being that me as a person, I would save the person, not the 100 fetuses. Right? I'm thinking of like.
Why are they different though? Like they're this, like 100 fetuses is 100 potential babies.
No, I mean, like,
right?
I think the implication in the space was that it was like test tube fetuses or something like that.
Oh, okay,
right?
okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm not saying pregnancies, right?
Okay.
It's not pregnancies. It was fetuses, like in a lab or something like that. It's like, well, which one do you say? Do you say the 100 fetuses in the lab, or do you say the person, a person? Right. Go. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna save the person.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, to me, right? It's like, so this is my pro-choice step, if you would, in regards to thinking about who do I focus on. So now me, this is now, and this goes as deep. This very well may go as deep as the difference between black Christians being Democrats and white Christians generally being Republicans or whatever. But the idea is who do I focus on? Do I focus on the potential of the fetus, or do I focus on the potential of the person, right? Because the person is here. The person is present, and that person may or may not, most likely, may or may not be Christian. And so why am I going to, it's like, I think the Bible makes it really clear how we're supposed to treat non-Christians. That non-Christians is like, you know what, do you. Make your laws, do whatever, have rights so that we all have our rights, but it's like, but you do you. What I'm supposed to do as a Christian is I'm just supposed to love you.
Yeah, and I agree.
Right?
And just so you know, I 100% agree. I think a lot of people on the pro-life side, some of you guys are going to be triggered right now, aren't truly pro-life, but they're pro-birth.
Okay.
Right? So they're because if you're pro-life, in my opinion, you have to also be cognitive of gun laws, right? And what's fair legislation there, and what are common sense gun laws, right? Some of you guys are triggered right now. You have to factor in all these other issues, social issues, police brutality, right? Like you can't sit here and tell me that you are for the unborn, but yet you don't care the environment and the climate and the economic things that they grow up in. And a lot of people just are ignorant because they've never been to the south side of Chicago. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand what happened in the Bronx in the 70s. No. You know what I mean? And so I think that is inconsistent for a lot of pro-life people because they're not truly pro-life. So they're more pro-birth.
So not only are they pro-life, and yet they like guns, and then they also like the death penalty. So that's a nice little mix. But look, I'm going to tell you, it's like I don't want to make people think that I don't understand the inconsistencies on the pro-choice side, because like, look, there's a lot of people who are pro-choice and they're vegan. You know, right? And it's like, you see, look good. I'm glad I got the laugh out of that that I need. But it's like
the potential for life. It's okay to end the potential for life, but not your animals. Don't you dare touch those animals.
And I'm like, yo, how does this happen? I get, but you know,
so there's inconsistencies on both sides.
Yeah, and so like I said, so just chalk that up. But for me, like I said, it comes back to where am I at, and I think a lot of pro-birthers are like that. I like that phrase and whatnot. They tend to be, with respect, they tend to be in a more of a Christian bubble. Me, I'm a sociology teacher, and I'm teaching classes where literally there's probably maybe like 5 Christians in a whole bunch of 40 of them, right? Five actual Christians. There's some people who are cultural Christians and stuff like that. But like 5 actual Christians in the space. And I feel the responsibility of understanding, like I get it faced every day with, do I meet them where they're at, or do I try to go with some other approach? Well, one, my job is such to where I'm supposed to, to do different in regards to how I'm teaching, but I've really incorporated just the whole doctrine of love of Jesus, and just to say, and I know this is not the point of this, but for real, it's like, look, the Bible makes it very clear about what it says about homosexuality. And at the same time, people who are homosexual will take my class, and after my class, they will hug me, and they'll be like, oh my God, this is the greatest class ever, and whatnot, because it's like, because whatever it is that I am, I have to be I just have to be love for them. And then we can when they are convinced that I love them, then we can have a talk about whatever else it is. And so it's like, when someone is making this choice about whether they get an abortion or not, that's a real, like, if you come at them with religion, which I think both of us have the same opinion about religion, right? Whatnot. You come at them with religion, all they're going to do is just walk away hurt, right? And depressed, and felt like you didn't help them at all. But if you come at them with love, regardless of what their decision is, if you come out with them with love, that changes the whole thing.
Yeah, and again, this is where I think we would agree. I think a lot of Christians would agree. Is absolutely we are commanded to love, We are commanded to love. We are commanded to not judge those outside of the church, according to 1 Corinthians chapter 5, right?
Yeah.
If there's anybody sexually immoral among you, judge
yeah.
that person. But those that are outside of the faith, because then you couldn't associate with anybody, right? I think we in the church, unfortunately, we do the opposite. We hold non-Christians to Christian standards, and then Christians who are wilding out, we look the other way because they're anointed or whatever, right?
It's embarrassing.
So we would agree on all that. I think we agree on all. I think love, all that kind of stuff. I think that the tough part is just, again, there's another living thing inside of someone's body, and like, why do they, like, we would never. Okay, I saw this and this was interesting. They said if you're pro-choice, you should also be pro-choice in allowing people to commit suicide and be okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's their body and they could do what they want with their body. And
I'm good with that.
It doesn't. So you would be okay with, like, really?
Oh yeah. Look, I'm telling you, I'm weird. Like,
that's crazy.
If you want to talk about rights, like I said, civil rights are a whole different setting. This is how I can fight. I can still fight for gay rights, and yet at the same time be very clear and believe the Bible about what it says about homosexuality. There's a difference between rights as a citizen and my morality.
Absolutely, we agree on that.
Yeah.
Except when it impacts another person or the potential of another person. So we would never say, yo, people want to drink. Let them drink and drive. Who the hell cares? Let them drink and drive. Let them be high and on the road. Why? Because you're endangering other people. Yeah. Right? Yeah. The same way with an abortion, you're impacting someone else. So not to get like super philosophical, but like, how many potentially amazing people, scientists, doctors, lawyers, people that could have found a cure to cancer, AIDS.
Understood. Yeah.
How many of those potential right, people have been aborted? Yeah. Same token, there's probably been a lot of rapists and murderers and pedophiles.
There could have been another Hitler up in that bad boy too. And so I mean, like I said, I appreciate presenting that as an argument. It's just I can't go there with that argument because of the exact thing that you just got finished saying, right? It's like there's a dichotomy in that it's like, yes, there are people, and there are people who have had their life ended, and yes, and I get that there's these decisions and things like that, and that these decisions are affecting the potential of life. It's like all of this stuff is like I'm yes. It's like it's all the way down the board, and yet at the same time, I truly don't expect people who are not Christians to have my perspective on where life begins and what to do with that life, even if they think it's a life, and whatnot. I don't expect them to do any of that because, like I said, I'm going to focus on the love side of it, and I know that that's tough, and I know that people want. It's like I'm telling you, and my wife, when she watches this, if she watches this, she's going to be mad. She probably won't talk to me for a week after this. But when you
careful,
I'm speaking it into existence, right? But if you talk about that though, when it comes to, like I said, it's who are you going to focus on? And yes, if you want to call it, if you want to call something abortion like murder, well, guess what? Jesus got a murderer in his life, in his heritage line. It's like, not only a murderer with David, right? King David. It's not only was he a murderer, but he was an adulterer, and he was a schemer and a plotter. He was almost every bad thing. He broke almost every single commandment, right? Except for, and you would argue about, did he put God first in any of this stuff, right? But this dude was considered a man after God's own heart. And so I get why the intensity of the emotion. I get why people say this, and yet at the same time, I'm like, I can't do anything about that. The Apostle Paul, it's like, yo, I can't do anything about the decisions that they made, right? But I know I'm supposed to love them, and if I love them, they might become the Apostle Paul. They might become King David if I love them through this, because that's the only person. That's the person that's here. That's the person that made it. Yes, I get it. But that's the potential of life that I see also.
Okay, so we agree on that. Okay, so on Twitter and on YouTube, I said, hey, I'm going to be talking to one of my Christian pro-choice leaning friends. What questions do you guys have for them? Ooh. So we've actually already covered a lot of them.
Oh, okay.
this was a good one, and I don't know. Shout out to Davis Absolute for asking this. I don't want. It's almost a little conspiracy theorist, but I actually think it's accurate.
Okay,
I actually think it's
let's
accurate.
go.
So he says, "How do you feel about Margaret Sanger's, who's the founder, I think, of Planned Parenthood, clearly stated eugenics." Eugenist agenda focused on reducing the population of non-whites to 0 in the U.S. Blacks are disproportionately higher to other ethnicities with regards to abortion, despite being lower in the population overall. From my research and from the stuff she said out of her mouth, she said some crazy stuff about black people wanting to.
I was wondering if you were going to go to this, bro.
So I think this is where a lot of, again, not to create a character, but a lot of like woke black people are very like, pro-choice, pro-democrat, you know what I'm saying? But then like, yo, the chick of Planned Parenthood was saying some crazy stuff about black people.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile
that?
How do
I reconcile that? That's, you know what? I can't reconcile what they said to begin this. Yes, it was a eugenics movement. They were trying to eliminate and reduce the number of people of color, all across the board. There's things that still happen along those lines in regards to reproductive rights. It's like there's research about, and this is not me, where women of color are, for like a cyst on the ovary or something like that, they're having recommended a hysterectomy, right, the removal of everything, and so therefore ending any future childbearing or whatever, versus just freezing the cyst and seeing what, cryo freezing the cyst in order to try to keep their reproductive, their ability to reproduce. And so there's plenty of research out there that talks about this, and so, but I can't argue that. I really can't argue that as a place of saying this is why this shouldn't exist. What I do want to say, though, because I even wrote that down as a point for myself to say, what I do think of is the incredible hypocrisy that a lot of conservative white Christians have in this space, because with the utmost love and Christian respect, y'all didn't care until it affected other white people. Right, because it's like that when people say it's like age is not the problem, homosexuality is the problem, AIDS is the cure, and stuff like that. And it's like when it came to thinking about abortions in the beginning, it was supposed to, as long as it didn't mess with white folks, people didn't say a whole bunch about it. But then middle class white women especially, they caught wind of this whole abortion thing, and they started using those services that were supposed to be putting people of color, reducing the people of color population. And so then what winds up happening is actually this is the backlash of white supremacy on the other side of it. So let me lay it out like just flat to say that because of this scare that white people are no longer the numerically the biggest number of people in the United States, white people are scared of that. And so now this fight for abortion is like, we need every white life. And that's how I see it being framed all the time. You see these super radical, that's me, and maybe I'm not watching enough. I don't watch enough of the media in order to see the multiraciality of all of this and whatnot. But the faces that I see, especially the most radical people that I see in that space, are normally white and male and Christian and whatnot. But they're fighting hard to maintain, like I said, this idea of whiteness. And it's like, yo, I'm telling you, if this thing didn't affect white people, we wouldn't be talking about abortion right now.
But you don't think there's Christians like myself, like Christians all over the country, that sincerely, it's not about preserving whiteness. Maybe subconsciously, but I don't like to me it's real. I could give a damn. Like
you would think,
you know what I'm saying? I'm sincerely on some like, yo, that's a person.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like that's a person, and we would never, as a society, say, again, to go back to the drunk driving thing, we would never be like, yeah, it's cool to drink and drive. Who cares? Who gives a damn? It's your body, but it's not your body because you're gonna hit somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that becomes the tough part. Is I think the majority of the people who are pro-life.
Are sincere?
Are sincere. I would say I can't speak to the guys writing these bills. I don't know. I'm saying as far as all the homies I have, as far as the white Christians I know, in the middle of Montana, like I don't think they're viewing it as white and black. like with the Black Lives Matter thing, right? We could point to all the inconsistencies, and me and you are going to agree on a majority of these inconsistencies. But I think with specifically pro-life, pro-choice, like I think they're sincerely viewing that as a sacred life that should not be terminated.
Now check this. So this is how things can affect you on a subconscious level. And so they actually did this research where they prefaced white people's opinion about public assistance, like government, assistance and stuff like that. They prefaced it with two statements. One of the statements was that white people are the majority in the United States, and whatever, right? And then the next sentence, or the next preface, was white people are a declining majority in the United States and will be the minority racially in like 2050 or something like that. Cool, all right. And then they asked them, what do you think about government assistance and things like that and programs like that? And so what they found out is that when you preface it as white people, the number of white people declining in the population, all of a sudden white people become very stingy, very like, oh wait, we shouldn't be helping out everyone and whatnot. But when white people are the majority, they're like, yo, why not help people and whatnot? So I get what you're saying. I truly do. When it's like when you're coming from this honest space, I'm not suggesting that is not honest in any way, shape, or matter at all. What I'm saying is that for it to come to the public consciousness the way that it is, and for people to fight for it the way that they do, I can't help but to see this as a re-envisionment of, like I said, of whiteness, of protecting whiteness. And I get, right? It's like I said, literally, it's like, this is supposed to be for people of color. Why are we using it? Let's fight against this. But I get that this is a really complex, hegemonic thing and whatnot.
I don't know. I think we would probably disagree on the majority of people who hold a pro-life position. I really don't believe there's any racial bias involved in that, from my experience. But maybe there is. Maybe there's. Okay, here's another great question.
Okay.
So this is a legal question. Me and you believe life starts at conception, but from a legality, from a social standpoint, at which point do you believe a baby inherits human rights? And why at that point in particular? Like, okay, we agree that personally, abortion's bad, right? Just like I don't drink alcohol, right? But I'm okay with alcohol being legal. I'm saying I don't agree with this because it's impacting a different person.
Yeah.
What point do you think legally does that fetus have the rights, the legal rights of being and viewed as a human person? You
know what? If I was going to put a law on it, which I wouldn't necessarily like the way that you're framing it, it would be, to be consistent, it would be when the child could sustain life by itself. Like if you could remove the child and it could still live by itself, then I guess that's where they become not just potential of life, but their life. Now, right? It's like what they
that's
can
tough,
live without
man. Okay.
the assistance of the mother's body, then that's to me where it would start.
Wow. Okay.
Look, don't.
So, I guess then that would be the reason why the pushback on the 5-week thing, the heartbeat thing.
Big time. Big time. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I think we would disagree. Let me see if there's any other good questions here. There was a lot of questions, but we've covered a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Okay, we may make it, but what makes a human a human? I think you kind of answered that, right? When someone can sustain autonomously as a human.
Right.
I mean, I think that the tough part about that answer, man, is like, can a baby sustain on its own? Like you put a baby out in the forest, a 9-month-old, a 10-month-old, a 14-month-old, can it live on its own?
No, I don't mean live on its own like I said, can it live unassisted in regards to the mother's biological system? Right. So meaning that once you remove the baby the baby continue to, breathe and so of a premature baby, right? It's like premature, clearly in the way that I'm framing this premature baby, it could sustain life, even if it's shoot, for crying out loud, even if you can hook it up to a machine for a little bit and still keep it, assisted. That's where, like I said, that's where I would say, but it would, like I said, can we keep this child alive outside of the mother's body?
Which is at what point?
You know what, bro? You need to talk to a child development someone.
That would be interesting to see like which point. Okay, so another question is this is my question. At what point should we legally be uncomfortable with abortion? Like boom. So we would agree that like terminating a fetus is bad, right? Your position is it's bad for me personally. However, if somebody wants to make the decision, I'm going to love them through it. Mm-hmm. I'd probably agree with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to love them on the other side of it. I'm not going to sit here and say it's your choice. I'm going to be like, don't do that. That's dumb. You shouldn't do that. You don't understand how that's going to affect you later when you have kids, yada, yada. And I've literally been in that seat.
Yeah,
had close friends commit abortions or have abortions. So at what point do we, someone that holds a pro-choice position, and I say you hold a very conservative pro-choice position. I don't think you're like most. You're kind of an anomaly in this. At what point do we as a society have a problem with abortion? Not incest, not rape, not woman's health,
I get it.
none of that. Just legit like, yo, this is bad.
At what point should we be?
So it's not the heart rate. Everybody's saying it's not the heartbeat. It's not the heartbeat. 5 weeks is too soon. 5 weeks is too soon. I've had a lot of people say 10 weeks. At 10 weeks, if you see a miscarried 10-week-old, right? Mm-hmm. It looks like a human. It looks like a little human. And the guy has eyes, has hands, right? Yeah. At 10 weeks, we start seeing that, and all of a sudden we feel uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And this is a lot of my fellow pro-choice leaning Christians would say 10 weeks. How about at freaking 25 weeks? How about at 36 weeks? Partial birth abortions are legal in some states. Yeah. Right? I think that's the tricky part. Like, where do you know what I'm saying? Like, where do you think legally we have to say, hold on. We're literally going in and pulling out a human-looking thing out of that potential of life, not potential life. That looks like a human.
No, I toe the line. I understand people's comfort and whatnot. Everyone's comfort varies, but it's at that line of where the child has to be able to sustain life outside of the mother's womb. And so that's probably that partial birth line. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are saying it at that space, but like I said, it's an uncomfortable position to take, and yet at the same time, I'm sticking with my. It's not even sticking. Like I said, I lived this.
You
bro,
committed,
right?
You committed to this position.
And it's I'm committed to the position of saying, without choice, no matter how horrific the choices may be, there's no choice at all, and we cannot force our morality, our Christian morality, on the folks who literally truly believe that you are infringing upon their rights. And like I said, civil rights and morality live in two very different spaces for me. As complicated as that may be, it's like, Jesus and I, we got this going on,
So like 36 weeks, like you're comfortable with 30, like that's a baby
I'm
in
not
there.
comfortable
but
with
like you
it,
think
but
society should be okay with that.
I'm saying that. Like I said, I'm saying that if that's where life can sustain itself. It's like if life can sustain itself at that moment, then then bring the baby out, right? Okay. It's like a cesarean section or something like that.
Okay.
In order to do that.
So I'm trying to think where I want to go with this. Why do men not have a choice in this? Does a woman have their baby or not have their baby? It's completely autonomously the woman's position. But if she does have the baby, you're now on the hook for child support.
I think we're getting into a space that's not talking about abortion anymore.
Like hypothetically, like
no, I get it.
Like if I'm 16
no, that's definitely...
and I get my girlfriend pregnant and I'm pro-life and my family's like, we'll step up. We'll take care of this baby.
Right.
We got it.
Yeah.
You can go and live your life. And honestly, then she gets the choice. But then if I'm saying, I don't want you to have this baby, and she has the baby, she can come after me for child support. How does that make sense?
I honestly, I do think that's not fair.
Okay, cool. We agree on that. Dope. So when it comes to the legal potential, the legal availability for abortion, some people would say, well, look, people are going to do it anyway. Coat hangers, they're just going to drive to other states. They'll go to other countries, right? Okay, cool. Again, we're talking as a society. People point this example out, and I don't want to butcher it, but the big idea being that, like, how do you execute power of life or death over what people think is the potential of a good or bad life? Meaning, you know, they use like the Hitler example. Like Hitler was like, yo, these people are not worthy to live, so we're going to terminate them.
Yes.
Because we feel like, right, it's very subjective. I feel like this is not a worthy person.
Yeah.
Therefore, wipe them out. And this happens all the time. Ethnic cleansing, genocide, right? People take the logical step of like abortion is genocide on black and brown babies. You know what I'm saying? That like you don't think this is right. So therefore, not only are we going to put liquor stores in neighborhoods, right? We're also going to put abortion clinics in all these neighborhoods and make it very easily accessible and prorated and subsidized to make it as easy as possible for these specific people. You know, and you made the point earlier where people were pro-life because they maybe subconscious racial bias, but I mean that goes back to like the population control. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
We have a problem with these people, and these lives aren't as worthy. Therefore, we're gonna put these Planned Parenthoods or whatever, and this is not even
give people access.
Yeah, give people as much access and make it as easy and as cheap as possible to get abortions in those neighborhoods.
You know what? And I understand that. And if it was, there's definitely the part of me though that would argue is that's overall I would argue a issue of poverty and the way that we in the United States decide to handle it. Right, because there's a whole bunch of different ways to talk about poverty and how to talk about social mobility and things like that. We choose, I believe, like I said, to me, like I said, down to my core. Remember, I'm pro-choice, not pro-abortion, and that down to my core, we choose the most selfish way possible to try to solve these problems. The most individualistic,
so you agree that it's
way.
So you agree that it's a selfish choice?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, look, I'm telling you, it's like I know.
Your position is very
weird.
interesting because your position is like, I think it's a sin.
Yeah.
I think it's bad. I think it's selfish. I think a lot of times it is out of inconvenience.
Oh, absolutely.
However, I'm going to choose to love the person enough to let them make that choice, or at least create a society where they can make that choice.
Yeah, because like I said, because authoritarian society is being told to be a Christian, you're not being a Christian at all. You can't be a Christian by culture.
Again, we
know that.
Yeah, we agree on that. Yeah. So we agree that it's a selfish choice. We agree that it's a whether you're saying economics or convenience or whatever, like it's still about the person and their autonomy and their rights, right?
Yeah. And that's why there's that complexity between a woman being able to say, yes, I want to have the baby, and then I'm gonna hit you up for, child support and whatnot, and then no, even though the father very very well may want to love and support,
which
that
we
child,
agree that legality is trash. That a father should be in the decision process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So then, I think we know what we agree on. We know what we disagree on.
In the decision process, but that's not the same thing. Like as far as pro-choice goes, the choice is ultimately with the woman. Yes, but there's some things that I feel that need to be cleaned up on the other side of it. Yes, but. Cool. Okay. I get it.
So the pushback I hear a lot about in terms of why that needs to be an option. And there's a documentary called Freakonomics that I've watched. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
And they paralleled since Roe v. Wade was passed, the number of abortions went up.
Yeah.
And they parallel, and I don't know if this you understand social statistics better than I do.
Yeah.
Abortions went up, crime and poverty went down drastically. So they're like, look, this is a necessary evil, right? It's pragmatic. It's no one thinks it's like, yeah, let's have more abortions, right? But it's pragmatic. You know what I'm saying? That's their logic.
I tend to agree with that on the face of it, and yet at the same time, I would challenge again that this is not the only way that we could do this. Like I said, with the United States, we definitely focus on individual decision making and individual choices and the individual in order to overcome poverty. But there are definitely societies that would take a more universal, nationwide, country wide view of what poverty is and how to solve it.
Here's how I think we solve this. So I think a few things. I think with respect to drug use, right? There's countries that have legalized all drugs. I think Peru is one of them. Legalized all drugs about 20 years ago. And what they did was those people that wanted to use drugs, they let them use drugs, but they make it safe. They have these clinics where they can go in, get clean needles. All of the dollars they spent on punishing these people in prison and jail sentences, they took all that money, they poured it into rehab, and they poured it into education and economic opportunity.
Right.
They saw the suicide rate, the overdose rate, the drug use rate, everything go way down when they added opportunity, economic opportunity, upward mobility, right? And I think with, we would agree, hopefully, whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, nobody's like for poverty, right? Like we all hate poverty.
There's some people.
Again, that goes back to that like, white people only want to be pro-life when it affects white people, right? I don't know. I think the majority of these pro-life people don't like poverty as well. How we get to solving poverty is another question. Is it trickle-down economics? Is it socialism? Whatever.
Trickle-down doesn't work. Anyway,
I agree with you. I just don't want my taxes to be raised. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you. No, I get it. So I don't either. Like, look, I'm telling you.
Solution. I think the solution is prevent unwanted pregnancies, not terminate pregnancies.
Yeah, that's
right.
Of course. I'm sorry. You're just saying that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. But there's going to be Christians that say the government shouldn't subsidize Planned Parenthood and abortions, but they also shouldn't subsidize them in condoms and contraceptives and UIDs or whatever, right? Which is just like a dummy position. Like, look. These people aren't Christians. We don't expect them to live like Christians.
Yeah.
They're going to have sex anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to use drugs anyway.
Yes.
Let's be merciful and let's be helpful and say, if you don't want to have a baby, we're going to create systems and birth control and ways so that you don't have to have a baby, right? Ample access to condoms, ample access to whatever, you know what I'm saying? Spermicide. There's just so many options worth, but none of that stuff is 100% proof. But I think we would agree that the majority of people that are getting pregnant aren't using birth control to begin with. There's a small percentage, just like there's a small percentage of rape, there's a small percentage of incest. So I think we would agree with that. I think we would agree that ending poverty is a good thing. Creating economic mobility. And I would push back to those of you guys that say you're pro-life. Did the rest of your policies reflect a pro-life position? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you say you're pro-life for the unborn, but are you pro-life for that 5-year-old that's going to grow up in poverty because his dad isn't in the picture? What are you doing about it? And I don't mean like every Christian needs to go and adopt a baby and be a foster family. I think a lot of us do need to do that. You know what I'm saying? And be engaged. But I would say not just because you don't do that doesn't mean that you can't have an opinion. However, do you have a holistic pro-life opinion in terms of education, in terms of some form of assistance? You know what I'm saying? Because again, so many of you guys watching this, y'all don't understand poverty. Like, you guys really have not seen. I'm not talking about your dad went without a job for a season. I'm talking like food stamps, government aid, government housing poverty. You know what I mean? It's a different degree when you look at what's happening in the south side of Chicago. When you look at what's happening in these places, that's a different degree of poverty. We should all want to end poverty. We should all want to increase birth control. I think we would agree on that.
You know, and to make sure that people are consistent, it's like, look, I get it. It's like, you know, you just said it too. It's like, I don't want my taxes raised. And yet at the same time, what we do know is that education is the best way out of poverty.
Absolutely.
Right? And so then if we're putting it's like if we're truly pro-life, then we're about major educational overhauls. We're about, you know what I'm saying? It's like we're about recreating inner city environments and we're about recreating poverty or, the opportunities for poor people and stuff like that. It's like, shoot, it's like, the Valley. When I was driving around there and I was trying to find a grocery store.
Yeah, it's a food desert.
You know what I'm saying? Right?
And they had that, what is that? The food, Fresh and Easy. Yeah. And they closed, that place closed down. Now there's a Sprouts, but it's on the other side of the bridge.
Yeah, it's on the other side of the bridge. And it's just like, man, I was like, and so it's like, if we're really about, if we're really about that business of being pro-life, then there's a lot of life that we got to pour into people, right? In order for people to not make the decisions that they're making in those spaces. Because at the core of my being, this is the part about poverty that I think a lot of people that stand outside of it or critique it, and some people who even who have been in it and yet have made it out to whatever degree. What they don't understand, and this is something that you really have to get down to your cores and to understand, is that people are rational. Like people are they make rational choices. That might not mean that they make the choice that you would have made in that situation, but that their thinking is based upon a rationale, right? People who are having children at 15 years old, there's a very real lived experience that a lot of them are having in regards to what are the economic opportunities do I have around me?
Right.
It's like the education system sucks, the job opportunities in this area suck, and so one of the ways for me to sustain my life is have a child and to be on public assistance. I'm not saying that that's a good decision. What I'm saying is that is actually a rational one. And if we want to do something about that kind of decision making, then we need to do something about the entire system of poverty and education and all of these things in order for us to even make a dent on that. Until then, you're right. Condoms, birth control, all of that stuff. I wholeheartedly believe in that.
Here's something that the Bad Christian podcast said. They think this is their prediction, and I agree with it. I'm curious to hear what you thought. And we'll wrap up on this because I know you got to go. This has been really good. They said they think at some point, 25 years, 50 years, 100 years, birth control would get so good that whoever doesn't want to have a baby just will not have a baby. Right? It'll be that good, like that foolproof.
I believe that.
You take a shot, and for the next 10 years, you can't get pregnant. You know what I'm saying? No matter what, or whatever, right? Yeah. And their prediction was, when it gets to that point, and then you give it a decade, and like abortion is completely not a thing anymore, or like very seldom a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like legitimately so and so got raped, incest. The mother wants to have the baby, but she's gonna die with this baby, right? They're saying that once you get to the point where abortion is not a thing anymore, that you've eliminated that as a society, we will look back to this era and be like, yo, we were some freaking animals. Like we were barbaric for letting this stuff slide. It was a necessary evil at the time. Yeah. But that technology has came a long way, and that wasn't cool. In the same way we look back at frontal lobotomies. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. In the same way we look back on the fact that interracial marriage was outlawed up until 1949.
No, it was 67.
67?
67, yeah.
67?
Yeah, Loving versus Virginia.
That's crazy.
That's my expertise right there.
Yeah.
So
we'll look back at these things the way we look back at slavery, civil rights, and be like, yo, unfortunately, Christians have been on the wrong side of this stuff historically, right? On the wrong side of civil rights, on the wrong side of interracial. Not all Christians. Don't be triggered. But on the wrong side of some of these things, I think my guess is those not just pro-choice people, but pro-abortion people, because I think there is a difference. Hopefully y'all learn that from this conversation. There's a difference between pro-choice and pro-abortion. I think that those people will look back and be like, dang, we was on the wrong side of history. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. But that's who we are as people, you know, right? That's who we are as a nation. That's how the world works. And so therefore, you know, whatever they did 400 years ago, bro, they used to put leeches on people in order to cure certain diseases. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, how? And that wasn't even that long. I said 400 years. That's like we were doing that at like the turn of the 19th century still and stuff like that, right? Yeah. We didn't even have penicillin, right? And so I get it. We're gonna look back on this, and yet at the same time, I'm gonna say that's life though. Yeah. That's life.
Any final thoughts, application point? I would say for me, the application point is understand that there are people who are socially liberal in certain things. Myself, I think alcohol should be legal. I think cigarettes should be legal. I think marijuana should be legal. However, I think there needs to be regulation around those things. I don't do any of those things, but I think they should be legal. And some people, Dr. Bruce Hoskins takes that position to the logical conclusion of we need to allow this to be safe. So that would be my, like, don't just box everybody into one side. Like, stop thinking so binary. Do you have any other like practical application points, or because I have another one, but I want to hear if you have anything that you want to leave people with.
Just, you know, however the Lord speaks to you in regards to how you're supposed to love folks, you know, don't judge. You know, the Bible makes it clear. It's like, look, there's some folks who eat meat, other people who who's still on breast milk, and it's like, look, you can find someone. I remember this guy who came to our church and spoke that he ministers to porn stars. It's like he's at every pornography convention,
Yeah,
and he's
Craig
around.
Gross, Pastor Craig Gross. I'm about to actually have him on the channel.
And so I mean, to me, it's like, look, some people are strong enough to be in that space, but don't expect that person to be like you, right? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff that they're surrounded by that you wouldn't want to process, that you wouldn't want to deal with, and whatnot. It's like, look, I am a sociology teacher. And sociology is like the bedrock of a lot of the liberal views and things like that. And so I got all kinds of colleagues that when they hear this, they're going to have some words, along with all the Christian folks that I know. They're going to have some words. And it's like, look, you
really
say whatever
taking an
it is
L
that you
from
want.
every position.
Yeah, I'm taking an L. Yeah.
This isn't like him fighting for pro-abortion position. He's taking an L on either side of this.
Yeah.
And I'm probably taking an L, but some of you guys are going to think I wasn't hard enough on him or whatever because it wasn't a debate.
And so just be humble, along with myself in regards to just going like, look, you don't know what I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis and how I'm expressing God's love to these kids, for these young adults, or for most of them young adults and whatnot, and where I can get them to and where they're going. And I'm planting seeds all day. I got Bible verses in my textbook, like straight up. And it's like, they're going to listen. And when I do my spoken word poetry in class, there's God references all throughout. You know what I'm saying?
You're very unapologetically Christian.
Yeah, I'm unapologetically Christian, and at the same time, I understand that I'm a sociologist and I'm teaching sociology. Right?
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
and so in closing, like, have grace and mercy on people y'all disagree with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, have grace and mercy on people.
sure.
We're not going to agree on everything. Me and him don't agree on everything, but this is still my brother. This is still one of my mentors. We don't agree on the majority of this issue. And we could probably talk in circles for another hour about this. This has been an hour long. He has to go. So have grace and mercy on people you disagree with, whatever position you're on. Find the common ground, man. Find what you actually do agree on and try to seek to understand that position, even if you don't agree with it. We don't have to agree on everything, but we should be seeking to understand each other. So,
and if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been able to stay married to the same woman for 23 years, going on 24, almost 24 in June, because my wife is diametrically opposed on this issue, along with other ones that it's just like, we seek the common ground.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much for watching this. We appreciate you guys in the comment section. What y'all think, man? Y'all triggered, you upset, you angry, drive-by comments. Brrrah. What do y'all think about this? I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. Don't leave anything crazy toxic. Don't insult my friend and my mentor. Don't insult me. Don't be disrespectful. I want to hear from you guys, though. I really do want to hear from you guys. Keep it respectful in the comment section, and love one another, man. Love one another. Look for opportunities. If you are pro-life, look for opportunities to somehow help that single mother, to help those people that are struggling in poverty. I'm pro-life, and I'm really doing my very best to do that in private. I don't put that out there on social media, but I am doing everything I can in private to help those things because I care. You know what I mean? And just be praying for these people. So thank y'all so much for watching. We appreciate y'all.